the truth about cracking your fingers. Imagine sitting in a quiet room and suddenly you hear that sharp cracking sound coming from someone's fingers. Almost instantly, someone nearby says, "Stop doing that, you'll get arthritis." This warning has been passed down for generations, from parents to children, from teachers to students, and even among friends in casual conversations. But here's the real question. Is this belief actually true, or is it just another popular myth that refuses to die? Today, we're going to break down this topic step by step, so that by the end, you'll clearly understand what really happens inside your joints when you crack your fingers. What actually happens when you crack your fingers? First, let's understand the science behind that sound. Your fingers contain joints, and these joints are surrounded by a fluid called synovial fluid. This synovial fluid acts like a lubricant, helping your joints move smoothly without friction. Inside this fluid, there are tiny gases like oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide dissolved naturally. When you pull or bend your finger, you're actually stretching the joint capsule, which creates a sudden drop in pressure inside the joint. Because of this pressure change, the dissolved gases in the fluid form a bubble very quickly, and when this bubble forms or collapses suddenly, it produces that distinct cracking or popping sound. So the sound is not bones rubbing against each other, and it is not something breaking inside your body. It is simply a rapid physical reaction involving gas bubbles in the joint fluid. This is very important to understand because it already challenges the idea that cracking your fingers is harmful. Where did the arthritis myth come from? Now let's talk about the origin of the myth. Many people believe that cracking fingers leads to arthritis, but this idea was never strongly supported by scientific evidence. It likely started as a warning habit, where adults told children to stop doing something annoying or socially unpleasant. Over time, this warning turned into a widely accepted fact, even though it was never properly proven. This is how many myths spread, not because they are true, but because they are repeated so often that people stop questioning them. And once something becomes part of common belief, it becomes very difficult to challenge. What is arthritis? To understand the myth better, we need to understand what arthritis actually is. Arthritis is a medical condition that causes inflammation in the joints, leading to pain, stiffness, and reduced movement. There are different types of arthritis, but the most common ones are osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. Osteoarthritis happens due to wear and tear over time, usually affecting older individuals or those with joint stress. On the other hand, rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune condition where the body's immune system attacks its own joints. Neither of these conditions is caused by finger cracking. This is a crucial point because it directly contradicts the popular belief. Now let's look at what science tells us. Several studies have been conducted to see if cracking fingers actually leads to arthritis, and the results are quite clear. One of the most famous examples is a doctor who cracked the knuckles of one hand for over 60 years while leaving the other hand untouched. After decades of this habit, there was no difference between the two hands in terms of arthritis development. This experiment became a powerful, real-life demonstration that finger cracking does not cause arthritis. In addition to this, larger scientific studies comparing people who crack their knuckles and those who don't have also found no significant link between the habit and arthritis. So, from a scientific perspective, the evidence does not support the myth at all. Are there any side effects? Now you might be wondering, if it doesn't cause arthritis, does that mean it's completely harmless? The answer is not entirely simple, but also not alarming. Some studies suggest that frequent and aggressive finger cracking might lead to slight swelling or reduced grip strength over time. However, these effects are usually minor and not dangerous. In some cases, people who crack their fingers very often may experience temporary discomfort or irritation in the joints. But again, this is very different from developing arthritis. So while the habit may not be ideal in excessive amounts, it is also not the serious health threat people believe it to be. Why do people enjoy cracking their fingers? This is another interesting question. Many people feel a sense of relief or satisfaction after cracking their fingers. This feeling may come from the release of pressure inside the joint, or simply from a psychological sense of relaxation. For some individuals, it even becomes a habit similar to fidgeting, especially during stress or boredom. In this way, finger cracking is often more about comfort and habit than anything harmful. When should you be concerned? Even though the habit is mostly harmless, there are a few situations where you should pay attention to your joints. If you experience pain, swelling, or stiffness regularly, it could be a sign of an underlying joint issue. If your fingers make cracking sounds without intentional movement, or if the sound is accompanied by discomfort, it is better to consult a medical professional. These symptoms are not caused by cracking, but they may indicate a different problem that needs attention. So the key is to listen to your body and notice unusual changes. The power of myths in everyday life. This topic teaches us something bigger than just finger cracking. It shows how easily misinformation can spread, especially when it is repeated by trusted people. Many health myths continue to exist because they are simple, memorable, and emotionally convincing, but without scientific evidence. These beliefs can mislead people for years or even generations. That's why it is always important to question common advice and look for real evidence. Final verdict: truth or lie? So now let's answer the main question clearly. Does cracking your fingers cause arthritis? No, it does not. This belief is a myth, not a medical fact. The sound you hear is simply the result of gas bubbles forming in the joint fluid, and it has nothing to do with joint damage or disease. However, like any habit, it should be done in moderation, especially to avoid minor discomfort or irritation. The most important takeaway is to separate facts from myths and to rely on scientific understanding rather than assumptions. A simple way to remember. Next time you hear someone crack their fingers and someone else warns them about arthritis, you'll know the truth. You can confidently explain that there is no scientific evidence linking the two. And in that moment, you won't just be correcting a myth, you'll be sharing knowledge, just like a teacher guiding students toward the truth.